Yeah, so there says forests right here, so... Oh, actually, let me show you the cover first. This was the... Oops. It would help if I showed the screen. This was the cover that it was based upon. And I'm going to try to be good about remembering to relabel the not playing area for each of these games. Okay, there appears to be 3 acts, I'm guessing.
I keep coming back to a memory that I think I made up and couldn't really tell when, as if one day, simply daydreaming, I had suddenly imagined it. It felt like one of those imaginary dialogues you have after a moment that shook you. Simply rewriting the dialogue to correct the inaccurate depiction of yourself that transpired from it. Giving yourself a little bit of justice. So, I'm a little boy, and I'm lying on a bench. I'm not sure if I'm inside or outside, maybe some combination of the two. I think there's a plane.
Okay, I can interact with these. Yeah, they just disappear.
In the sky, but I can't actually see it. There's a thick, warm rain falling on a nearby roof of some shack. In the next room, a dance class.
Definitely a really unique art style with these like
and I can hear the
scribbles that are just made
the
to.
steps she's showing. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting the steps too. And on the nearby roof, among the unstructured sound of clingy raindrops, a few tinkles stand apart, and the rain is counting the steps too. The more I think about the memory, the more unsure I am of whether or not it happened.
They definitely appear to have a somewhat thick accent, so that's why I'm trying to be kind of quiet, so you can listen as much.
Quality. As if there's some inner hidden meaning to it, some truth I locked inside. A beacon for misty waters, hidden inside a reconstructed memory. The simple idea with deep roots of the many hours spent waiting, learning to listen and pay attention. Mementos of how much can grow in the gaps, where the present can cure the past.
Alright, and that was Mori. As I said, you know, it was definitely kind of the immersive story. Very interesting art style. If you saw when I played I Was Always Filled with Anger, they seem to be very good at kind of getting that immersive, you know, letting the environment itself help tell the story. Let me put the credits up so you can see that. So the game is by Raphael Daly, Max Romain, and Marine Theusen. I'll read what the itch page says, see if that helps you understand it a little bit more. It says, Mori is a short mind-wandering through three... Oh, wait a minute. Through 3 scenes exploring memories of intimacy. That was only one of them. I forgot the fact that there was a... there were these. So, that was just the first one.
I used to go to my grandparents once a week. They had a tiny place near the river, and there was this super ugly parking lot just in front, which I loved because I could skate on it. Across the ugly parking lot, a giant park. A beautiful park with lots of small paths, a cute lake that smelled like mud. We would go to the center of the park where there was a museum, and in front of it, a playground. It was the whole purpose of the walk. A small ice cream truck was always there, and I could obviously get an ice cream after.
Okay, the scent of the coconut is like the soap that you have never let me use.
One day we're there, just arriving in the playground.
The blue of this
There's a lot of
scarf
kids.
is just like the one in your eyes.
I can see the slide that I always play on, and my friend Charlotte was standing on it. I don't see her very often.
I remember
because
the
we
first
don't go
time
to the
I
same
had my
school.
period and you were in the
I think it's
bathroom
amazing that
with me.
Charlotte is there, that I can play with her. And I let go of my grandmother's hands to start running toward the slide. I had never done this before. I was very well behaved. My
That laugh
grandmother
reminds me of
calls
this picture
but
where
I
you
keep
smile
on
and I'm
running
sulking because you're the
faster and
one
faster.
on the front of the wooden
But the girl
horse.
suddenly turns around, and it's not Charlotte. She had the same hair, the same kind of clothes, but it's not her. I suddenly break
You
down
had the same mole
because I
right
realized
beneath the
how
right
much
eye.
I miss her. And because today is still not the day we're gonna play together. I'm angry at the girl because she should be Charlotte, and she's not. I came back to my grandmother.
Those black clothes remind me of how you
She
refuse
asked me
to wear
if
another
I
color for
wanna
15
play,
years.
but I just want to go home. I don't want an ice cream either because the day is ruined. Because Charlotte should have been there, and she isn't.
The shirt reminds me of when we dressed
I
exactly
discovered
like the
that
same
it
to look
was
like twins.
I discovered what it was to truly miss someone. Now she's gone for good. But the feeling of mistaking someone for her is all that remains.
It smells like that sheet wipe
To
wine.
be but a few
The
meters
first we got
away,
drunk. First time we got drunk.
overflowed by bliss. And I can only wish for someone to have the same hair, the same kind of clothes, and to fool my mind for a second before
That girl
I
eating an
realize
apple has
it
the same
cannot
expression you
possibly
had
be her.
when they removed your
But
braces.
there's always this possibility of a single second when everything seems about to happen that makes me grateful of those women
That elegant old
young
lady
woman
reminds me of your
that still
grandmother,
look like
and that
her.
you'll never be one.
like she did. As our ages grow apart, that offers me a magnificent second of believing that I'll be able to look into her eyes.
I
again.
remember how great a cook you were. Yeah, definitely a sadder memory. So that, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, mori can be forest or death, or remember to die. So yeah, there's definitely the memory of someone who has lost. Um, like, what's that term? Memento mori? Is that what it is? Yeah, an artistic or symbolic reminder of the inevitability of death. Alright, let's check out the third story. This game I do highly
always
recommend you
wished
check yourself if
he
you
was
can.
my dad. Ever since I was a kid. I never admitted it. Not even to myself until many years after his death. It was not a thing I was telling myself or anything, but the memory of spending time with him has this unmistakable feeling to it. Looking back,
The dev definitely
I'm
has a
certain
way
that
of
I was always desperately yearning
I
for his
love
presence and
the
his
style
attention.
of these games.
Even now, I can easily assemble the
He
pieces
was
of his
born in
presence:
Mendoza in 1956.
a gentle and faint smell of smoke, his slightly shining brown skin, his gigantic smile and deep
He arrived in
voice.
Buenos Aires when he was 20.
His presence was so rich, thinking about it still relaxes me. When
He
he
took the
died,
last photograph of
there was
Borges
a
in
large
Geneva.
funeral, and I guess I was expecting it to be a moment when I would feel all my senses of his presence one last time. But when I arrived at the ceremony,
He worked as a
I suddenly
correspondent for
felt like a
Perfil.
stranger. It was, I was still a kid, and I guess I didn't realize that he was a whole person and not just my
He moved to
perception
Paris in
of him.
1982.
His family was there, and I barely knew a couple of them.
I love the smear
Most of
effect.
them were speaking in a language that I wasn't completely
After
familiar with.
1984, he worked for several international
As he
magazines.
has as he was a photographer, a few people were discussing his work. They seemed to know him much, much better than I did. They were talking about
He
things
covered the 1980
he
World
had
Cup for
done
El
that I
Grafico.
didn't know about. Later, a man came to play a very specific type of tango from the region he was born in.
He had
Everything
an
was
apartment near
completely
Pigalle.
unfamiliar. At
Pigalle?
this moment, I felt like he had suddenly abandoned me,
He captured the
suffering
visit
from
of
my
many
own
South American
childish
personalities as they
realization that
visited
my
Europe.
presence in his life was nothing, while his presence in mine was of such extraordinary richness,
For more than 20 years, readers in Argentina watched Roland
and was
Garros through
such a
his eyes.
tiny, ridiculously neglectable part of his own existence. And while I was secretly losing a father, no one could really
He
understand my
died in
grief.
2006 in Paris.
Over the years, that feeling slowly faded away, but the feeling of his presence remained. And I
He
guess
had two
that
children.
if I realized that day that maybe I wasn't such a big part of his life, he certainly was of mine, and his remembered presence is mine to keep and carry.
Wow. Yeah, as I said, just three stories of remembering those who have since passed. Um, the other thing I would say with it, and completely understandable with the fact that this did come from a game jam, um, for accessibility reasons, I would love to see some kind of subtitle. I mean, I don't know how feasible it would be because it does use some text that is not spoken to convey the story, but some kind of subtitle to help convey it for maybe those who are deaf or hard of hearing. But all in all, really great experience.